This winter of 2021, it was January, and these were some of the shortest days of the year and the longest, darkest nights of the year because it got dark before you had your dinner. I was feeling isolated from my students and from my coworkers and from my family because I had just finished my very first semester of teaching full-time, and that first semester of teaching full-time was completely virtual. And in the middle of this dark, isolating winter, my friend Jamie Fox reached out to me and said, "Do you want to take a woman's only jiu-jitsu class with me? My son takes jiu-jitsu here at this martial arts center, and I've been really wanting to try, but afraid to go and do it on my own." And I went with her, and as I was waiting, I got there early. I was so excited at this opportunity at Connection and Community that I had time to reflect as I watched the younger class of 8 to 12-year-olds practice their jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is an inside joke in my family because when I was about 8 years old, we took a family vacation with my grandparents to this very cool vacation rental property. And something you need to know about my grandfather is he would often misspeak. He would get excited and enthusiastic and mix up some of the vowels or the consonants. Sometimes this is called a spoonerism. So an example of a spoonerism, my name is Sydney Buckner, and if I were to mix up those consonants, it would come out as Bidney Suckner, which is offensive, a little bit absurd, and nonsensical, which can be embarrassing if you didn't mean to say it. And this happened to my grandfather a lot, and the family would kind of make fun of it, and it became this inside joke. And we went to this vacation rental, and my grandparents got there early, as they typically did, because they would split the trip into 2 legs to make those sections easier to accomplish. And they got there early and got settled into the vacation home. And when me and my brother and sister rushed in, carrying all our belongings, going to go seek out the best hide-and-go-seek spots and claim the coolest bed next to the TV or the power outlet or the window, our grandfather called out, and it resounded because this cabin had an open area with high ceilings that connected the first and second floor. And he said, "Just wait until you see the jiu-jitsu!" And we roared with laughter because we had already found the huge jacuzzi tub. And that became an inside joke. Just like my grandfather sometimes saying the Discovery card instead of the Discover card. He was going to take his Discovery card down to Walmart. And my family made fun of my grandfather for misspeaking. And when I was 8-year-old, I had a speech impediment. I couldn't say the letter R. And my family made fun of that too, eventually. We were going to go visit my grandmother, and I would ask, "Are we going to Walkwood to see Grammy?" And that baby speech was uncomfortable for adults. And to give you some perspective, babies start to learn to speak at ages 10 to 14 months old, and they learn fast. They pick it up fast, often because there's such immediate feedback from the adults and other children around them. They're so excited at the baby's first attempts at language, then any and all attempts are celebrated, even though they aren't completely correct, right? The baby just attempts to say m, m, m. It gets that M consonant sound, and you think it's starting to say mom, and you're like, okay, mommy, say mommy, mom, yay! Even if it's not the highest standard that you would expect, it's all celebrated. But this baby speech became more uncomfortable, and most noticeably so when I went into kindergarten, because now I was in this culture that was a bit competitive. Even in kindergarten, I was not speaking at the level of my peers, and their adults naturally start to get this apprehension, this fear, is there something wrong? And that fear of failure actually impedes learning. It became harder for me to learn the letter R because there was so much pressure to perform at the level of my peers. And I was reading above level. I was reading before I came into kindergarten, but it was the speech that was tough for me. And eventually there was intervention and speech therapists who had skill sets and processes to help me relearn how to say the letter R, helped me overcome that obstacle that had been placed on me by adults feeling apprehension that I was not performing at the level that I ought to be. And I was sitting there in the Jiu Jitsu class reflecting on how that fear of failure made it harder for me to learn. And Jamie comes in and we all get started, and I find out on day one of Jiu Jitsu that the very first thing we're going to learn is how to fall. Because falling is inevitable, and if we fall incorrectly, we could hurt ourselves and actually cause more damage, and it will be harder to learn because we'll have to heal before we can learn those new jiu-jitsu moves. So day one of school, day one of the coolest semester of your life is falling 101. I can't wait to learn with you this semester.